Hello and welcome to a brief guide that will be diving deep into explaining how to do the pushing mechanic during the Soulless Horror, the first boss of the 5th raid wing, Hall of Chains. This is just explaining how to do this mechanic and not the boss as a whole. Check the description for a full list of resources on other parts of this fight and various links I mentioned throughout this video. While there is the opportunity for a lot of different builds to do this job, we really only ever see a variant of a heal alacrity Druid do this job. I recommend the heal alacrity Druid build from Heartstuck, which has the push or heal variant that has you take the trait Lead the Wind instead of Predator's Onslaught, the trait Windborne Notes instead of Spirited Arrival, the skill Glyph of Tides instead of Glyph of Equality, a longbow instead of an axe and warhorn, and the pet Electric Wyvern instead of a White Tiger. You're going to want to be playing this build like a heal alacrity Druid, meaning you need to upkeep your boons on your allies while also keeping them alive, but you're sacrificing some parts of your build in order to deal with the Tormented Dead. Tormented Dead will begin spawning when the Soulless Horror reaches around 90% health. Specifically, it will spawn for the first time when the boss reaches 90% health and the next wall reaches the middle of the platform. Afterwards, it will spawn every 20 seconds. To make tracking when the Tormented Dead will spawn easier, I highly recommend using Bliss HUD with the timers module and having the Soulless Horror pushing timer activated. This will show you a countdown to and a reminder of them spawning. Your objective for when they spawn is to push them away from the group, preferably off of the platform as a whole, and to have them die there. Whenever a Tormented Dead dies, they will spawn a large red AoE field that will obliterate anyone standing in it. So you obviously don't want it to be on the group because that is going to be problematic for everyone. And you also don't want it anywhere on the platform so you have more space to deal with all of the other various mechanics. The field does only last for 60 seconds though, which is a long time, but it does go away in case the Tormented Dead dies while on the platform. In order to push it away, you're going to want to rely on your Glyph of the Tides and your longbow's point blank shot. Your Glyph of the Tides will only knock them away when you're not in Celestial Avatar and when you're up close to them, and your point blank shot will knock them further away the closer you are to them, but also has a range at 1200. Additionally, you want the Tormented Dead to die while it is away from the group. As a healer, this is relatively difficult for you, so you need to rely on your team. Typically, when a Tormented Dead will spawn, you will let her run towards the group. As the group applies conditions to the Tormented Dead and deals a little damage, you will use your Glyph of the Tides to knock it towards the closest edge, run up to it as best as you can, and use point blank shot to push it further away. And then use Vine Surge to immobilize it in place while the conditions and your own attacks finish it off. Balancing having the group deal enough damage to the Tormented Dead and not dealing too much damage that it just instantly dies on the group is tricky. Part of this falls onto the group to be paying attention while they are fighting and not to be zoned out. But oftentimes the Tormented Dead will instantly die when it's being attacked by the full group, so you need to be quick and careful about applying damage to it. Sometimes the opposite is true where the group doesn't deal enough damage to it and you push it out, but it doesn't die, so it just runs back in, but your knockbacks are on cooldown so you can't push it out again, so then it dies on the group. So again, be careful about how much damage the group is dealing to the Tormented Dead and make sure you push it out before the group kills it, but after there are enough conditions on it. Sometimes you will see necromancers bring Epidemic to apply all the conditions on the Soulless Horror to the Tormented Dead from range, and also all the worms, which makes this mechanic a little bit easier because a lot of the damage can be done to the TD from far away, but this isn't always a guarantee as different people and groups do different things, and this is also tricky because a single Epidemic won't usually kill the Tormented Dead by itself. So just to summarize all of this, a Tormented Dead will spawn every 20 seconds, starting at around 90% health. When a Tormented Dead spawns, let the group cleave it down and knock it away from the group, preferably off the platform, before it dies, and make sure it dies while it's off the platform. Now, here are a few other tips and bits of information for you. The Tormented Dead will fixate on whoever is the off tank, aka the tank who is not currently being fixated by the Soulless Horror. So if you or your group is struggling with this mechanic, the off tank can make this considerably easier for you by pulling the Tormented Dead away from the group to make sure it dies away from the group. But this comes at the cost of boons and healing for your group and DPS to the boss as your off tank is away from the group. When you are in Celestial Avatar, you can use Natural Convergence, which can cause cripple, slow, and immobilize to the Tormented Dead if you need extra crowd control to ensure it dies away from the group. But do be aware that Glyph of the Tides will pull enemies towards you instead of away from you while you are in Celestial Avatar, which can be nice in case you need to pull the TD, but could also be problematic if you forget this and pull the TD back into the group. Be aware that your two pets both have knockback abilities, which can stun the Tormented Dead for a little extra time in order to buy time for it to die. Remember that you always want to push the Tormented Dead off of the arena, but if you are not able to, getting it as far away from the group as possible is second best. If, for whatever reason, you are not able to push the TD out of the arena, but can move it before it explodes, it is a good idea to stack them together. This maximizes the amount of possible space you have, but that specific space will be taken away for even longer. If your group, for whatever reason, is stacked in the center, you will want to push the Tormented Dead away from the group as fast as possible, because it's going to take damage as it spawns and will probably blow up on the group. Be aware that your job is considerably more important than the challenge mode version of this fight, but can also be a tiny bit easier. As the last ring disappears, you need to make sure that the TD is off the arena because you really need the space, but you don't have to push the TD as far in order to get it off the arena, but the TD will also reach the group faster after it spawns. Lastly, remember that there are other parts of the fight going on. Do your best to not get hit by all the various other attacks while you're distracted by the Tormented Dead. You definitely don't want to get hit by a flame wall. And then you also want to make sure that you are still buffing and healing your allies and also DPSing the boss in between TT spawns. I hope all this information is useful for you and you now have a better understanding of how to be a pusher during the Soulless Horror boss fight. If you have any other tips, feel free to let us know in the comments so we can learn more. Have a good one, everyone.